The rain tapped against the windows of Seattle's innovation hub like impatient fingers on a keyboard. Inside, the scent of premium coffee and ambition filled the air, creating that unique atmosphere where dreams and caffeine intertwined. Alex Mitchell adjusted his black-framed glasses, the sleeve of his navy hoodie sliding back to reveal the tattooed constellation on his wrist. Lyra, the symbol of creativity and healing. At 30, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had rebuilt himself from broken pieces and understood the value of each fragment. The hub buzzed with the symphony of keyboards and hushed conversations. Exposed brick walls and industrial lighting created the perfect backdrop for Seattle's tech aspirants. Alex claimed a corner table, opened his laptop adorned with mental health awareness stickers, and began observing. His casual attire, faded jeans with artistic rips, worn sneakers with mismatched laces, and that hoodie with a small rainbow pin made him invisible among the sea of aspiring entrepreneurs, perfect for market research on his mental health platform's next update, which would focus on crisis intervention for rural communities. Brad Thompson appeared like a storm cloud on a sunny day, his pressed shirt and carefully combed hair a stark contrast to the creative chaos around him. The Innovation Hub manager surveyed the room with the disdain of someone who believed success only came wrapped in a three-piece suit and validated by decades of tradition. His eyes narrowed at Alex, who was chatting with a young woman about her startup struggles and the mental health challenges of entrepreneurship. "Hey, you can't solicit business, Bus here." Brad's voice cut through the ambient music, sharp as a knife. Alex looked up, calm but puzzled, his hazel eyes reflecting confusion rather than offense. "I'm just having a conversation," he replied, voice even and measured, the way someone speaks when they've weathered greater storms. Brad's face flushed crimson, the color spreading to his neck like spilled wine. "You millennials think every space is yours to lounge in. Some of us actually work for a living instead of playing with phones all day." He sneered, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. His voice carried the bitterness of someone watching the world evolve beyond his understanding. The hub fell silent, conversations halting mid-sentence. Phones discreetly turned toward the confrontation. 3 influencers at a nearby table capturing the moment on their live streams, viewers already commenting with wide-eyed emojis. Alex stood, extending his hand in a peace offering. "Let's discuss this professionally," he offered, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. The sound of flesh meeting flesh echoed through the space as Brad slapped Alex's face with an open palm. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. "We don't need your kind here," Brad snarled, venom dripping from each word. "With your apps and rainbow flags, thinking you'll change the world from behind a screen while real businesses struggle." Alex didn't flinch. The sting on his cheek paled compared to battles he'd fought within himself during those darkest nights of depression. His eyes remained steady, calculating, not in anger, but in quiet determination that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. No one knew that in less than 2 minutes, this casual-looking young man would transform the space entirely. Sometimes the most powerful response to hatred isn't shouting back. It's standing firm in your truth with unshakable dignity. If you believe in the power of dignity against discrimination, stay with us at Hard Stories. The slap was just the beginning of a revolution no one saw coming. The weight of silence pressed against the hub's exposed brick walls like an invisible force. Alex's hand moved to his pocket, not in retaliation, but with the practiced precision of someone familiar with navigating crisis. This wasn't the first storm he had weathered. It wasn't even the most devastating. Behind those calm hazel eyes lay a journey carved through darkness few could understand. A path illuminated by purpose born from pain. 7 years earlier, Alex Mitchell had sat cross-legged on the floor of a university dormitory, surrounded by textbooks, empty coffee cups, and antidepressant bottles with labels worn from handling. The computer science prodigy with scholarships and accolades had spiraled into a pit so deep that breathing itself felt like an impossible task. Each inhale a battle against the weight crushing his chest. Rejection from his conservative Midwestern family after coming out had left him homeless during sophomore year, sleeping on friends' couches until even those welcomes wore thin. The panic attacks came without warning, in crowded classrooms, noisy cafeterias, during finals when everything depended on clear thinking. Mental health services on campus were booked weeks in advance. Therapy was financially unattainable, and crisis lines placed him on endless holds until he disconnected in frustration. That night, staring at his reflection in a cracked mirror spotted with toothpaste flecks, Alex made a decision that would alter not just his trajectory, but thousands of others. If the system couldn't help him, he would rebuild the system from its foundation. He coded the first version of Mindspace through sleepless nights fueled by ramen and determination, connecting struggling students with mental health professionals willing to volunteer their expertise during off hours. By graduation, his application had saved 12 lives on campus alone, students who had found immediate help through their screens when all other doors seemed closed. Venture capital came knocking as Mindspace expanded beyond campus boundaries. Alex's innovation allowed users to track emotional patterns through simple daily check-ins, connect with counselors in seconds rather than weeks, and built communities for those who felt alone in their struggles. The hoodie-wearing programmer who spoke softly in meetings and declined photo opportunities surprised everyone when his company valuation hit $500 million last quarter, after expanding services to rural areas where mental health resources were critically scarce. Yet Alex remained in the trenches, occasionally updating code himself, reading every user testimonial that came through their feedback system, understanding that disconnection from purpose was a luxury his mission couldn't afford. Brad Thompson had never recognized Alex Mitchell because their worlds had briefly intersected 3 years ago in a way Brad preferred to forget. A chapter he'd closed in his mind like a book too painful to revisit. His traditional business model, a chain of luxury workspaces catering to established professionals with dress codes and membership requirements, had sought funding from Mitchell Pettiers during a critical expansion phase. Alex had seen potential, but suggested modernizing to appeal to younger entrepreneurs who represented the future of innovation. Brad had dismissed the inexperienced kid's advice with condescension, and his business faltered as remote work culture exploded and traditional office models collapsed during economic shifts. His investors pulled out, leaving Brad with diminishing returns and growing resentment toward the changing landscape. 6 months ago, when Innovation Hub teetered toward bankruptcy, drowning in debt and failing to attract the membership needed for survival, Alex quietly purchased the entire chain without publicity or fanfare. He retained the existing management to give them a chance to adapt and evolve, visiting locations incognito to understand the user experience firsthand. His philosophy remained simple: leadership through understanding, not authority; transformation through connection, not force. The lessons of his darkest moments had taught him that lasting change never comes from the top down, but from a fundamental shift in how we value each person's contribution to the whole. Several younger employees had recognized Alex when he entered, but kept his secret, watching with silent admiration. They had observed him sit in different spots over weeks, speaking with members about their challenges, noting their feedback in a worn notebook, all while Brad dismissed him as another freeloading millennial taking advantage of the free Wi-Fi. They wondered how long before the CEO would reveal himself. They never expected it would happen through a slap that echoed beyond these walls, a moment that would redefine the culture they worked within. The sting on Alex's cheek burned, but his mind remained clear as still water. In his journey from breakdown to breakthrough, he had learned that reactions born from emotion are temporary, but responses rooted in purpose create lasting change that ripples beyond the moment. Alex's fingers moved across his phone screen with deliberate calm, each tap precise and intentional. The hub remained frozen in that peculiar silence that follows violence, heavy with anticipation and unspoken judgment, the collective breath of witnesses held in suspension. Brad stood with his hands still raised, the momentary satisfaction in his eyes already giving way to uncertainty, like a wave that peaks before inevitably crashing. Behind him, 2 assistant managers exchanged nervous glances but remained rooted in silent complicity, their corporate shirts suddenly feeling too tight around their necks. Near the espresso bar with its gleaming Italian machines, Zoe, a barista with purple-tipped hair who had started 3 months ago, caught the eye of Tyler, the tech support specialist whose desk faced the main entrance. Both had recognized Alex Mitchell the moment he first walked in weeks ago. His face had graced the cover of Entrepreneur magazine, after all. Beneath the headline, Mental Health Meets Technology, the quiet revolutionary. They had honored his obvious desire for anonymity, watching with quiet admiration as the millionaire CEO sat in different corners sketching user experience improvements in a worn notebook, occasionally asking them questions about their work experience as if he were just another curious customer. Now they witnessed a different kind of leadership unfolding, one that textbooks couldn't teach. "I think you should check your email, Brad," Alex said, his voice carrying a gentle authority that seemed to expand through the room like ripples on still water. The words weren't threatening, yet they resonated with unmistakable certainty, the confidence of someone who knows exactly what happens next. Brad's phone chimed in his pocket, a seemingly innocent notification that somehow felt ominous in the charged atmosphere. Then, like a synchronized orchestra, the phones of the regional director and every board member of Innovation Hub chimed simultaneously. The email contained 2 attachments: ownership documents revealing Alexander Mitchell as the majority shareholder of the entire chain, and a crystal-clear video clip from the security camera capturing Brad's assault in high definition, the timestamp in the corner eliminating any possibility of denial. The color drained from Brad's face as realization crashed over him like ice water, his expression transitioning through disbelief, horror, and the dawning comprehension of consequences. His assistant managers stepped away as though proximity itself might contaminate them, creating physical distance that mirrored their sudden desire for professional separation. You own," Brad stammered, his voice suddenly stripped of its previous authority, reduced to the uncertainty of someone whose reality has shifted beneath their feet. Alex straightened his glasses with an unhurried gesture, adjusting them with the same care he applied to every aspect of his work. The 3 influencers' live streams captured the moment in real time, their viewer counts climbing exponentially as comments flooded in like a digital tidal wave. The hashtag dignity is a right flickered into existence and began spreading across platforms, gaining momentum with each passing second. "I do," Alex confirmed, voice steady and clear enough to carry through the space without raising it, the voice of someone who understands that true power never needs volume to be heard. "But ownership isn't the point here, Brad. The hub isn't just a building or business. It's a concept, the idea that innovation thrives where respect exists, that creativity flourishes when people feel safe, that the next world-changing idea might come from anyone, regardless of how they dress, who they love, or what struggles they've overcome." Alex stepped forward, not with aggression but with purpose, each movement deliberate, as though choreographed for this moment he never wanted but was perfectly prepared to handle. The tattooed constellation on his wrist caught the light as he gestured to the diverse crowd of members who had witnessed everything, their faces reflecting a spectrum of emotions from shock to vindication. In this digital age, dignity isn't a privilege you earn by conforming. It's a right everyone deserves by existing, by breathing, by showing up authentically. The words hung in the air, simple yet profound, like truth often is. Several people began to applaud, the sound gathering momentum like rain becoming a storm, hesitant drops transforming into confident percussion. Brad's face contorted between anger and fear, the twin reactions of privilege confronted by consequences it never expected to face. "You can't just walk in here dressed like that and expect," Brad began, but his voice faltered as Alex's phone screen turned toward him, displaying the real-time spread of the incident across social media platforms, the view count already reaching thousands, comments flooding in faster than anyone could read them. "Actually, I can," Alex replied, no malice in his tone, just the certainty of someone who has found their footing after years of unsteady ground. Because despite what you believe, respect isn't determined by appearance, age, or whom we love. It's extended because we're human. That's a lesson I hoped this space would embody when I purchased it. It's still what I believe it can become. Outside, the Seattle rain continued its gentle percussion against the windows. But inside and eyed, something fundamental had shifted like tectonic plates beneath the surface. The power dynamic hadn't just reversed, it had transformed entirely into something neither of them had held before. This wasn't about humiliation or revenge, concepts that only perpetuate cycles of harm. The calm in Alex's eyes revealed something more revolutionary, the chance to rebuild something broken into something better, to transform a moment of pain into lasting progress. Alex's fingers slid across his phone screen once more, this time dialing a number he rarely needed to use for emergencies. The hub remained suspended in that peculiar moment, between what was and what would be, like a breath held between inhale and exhale. When Maya Chen, COO of Mindspace and Alex's trusted second-in-command for 5 years, answered on the first ring, Alex's voice carried throughout the now silent space with the clarity of someone who has found their purpose in crisis. Maya, I need you at the Pioneer Square Innovation Hub immediately. Emergency leadership transition. Bring the inclusion protocol, documents, and the crisis response team. He ended the call and addressed the room with the measured clarity of someone who had prepared for this moment without knowing when it would arrive, like rehearsing for a performance with no scheduled date. Innovation Hub will close for the remainder of today, Alex announced, his voice neither apologetic nor harsh, but matter of fact. All members will receive credit for additional days plus compensation for the disruption. Please save your work and gather your belongings. We reopen tomorrow with significant changes that will better serve this community. Brad's posture crumbled like a sand sculpture touched by waves, authority dissolving like salt in water. The man who had stood tall with the confidence of unearned privilege now seemed to shrink within his button-down shirt. You can't just, he began, voice caught between indignation and fear. I can and I am. Alex interrupted, not unkindly but with unmistakable finality. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. The same applies to anyone who has enabled discriminatory behavior or created hostile environments for our members. His eyes moved deliberately to the assistant managers who had stood by but silently during countless incidents of exclusion and bias. They looked away, recognition of their complicity washing over their faces like a stain spreading on fabric. Within 30 minutes, Maya arrived with a small team dressed in business casual attire, carrying tablets and folders with the efficiency of people who understand that crisis contains opportunity. The speed of their response suggested this wasn't the first cultural intervention they had orchestrated, that somewhere in Mindspace's protocols existed a plan for exactly this scenario. As members reluctantly gathered their belongings, Alex approached each one personally, apologizing for the disruption and offering additional workspace credits, plus connections to other Mindspace initiatives that might benefit their projects. The authentic concern in his interactions transformed the inconvenience from frustrating to meaningful. They weren't just witnessing corporate damage control, but genuine reformation in real time. Instead of being escorted out immediately as many expected, Brad and his management team found themselves directed to the conference room with glass walls that suddenly seemed more like an aquarium than a private space. Alex followed, closing the door behind them with a gentle click that somehow sounded like finality. Those watching from outside expected shouting, pointing fingers, perhaps even tears. None came. No dramatic confrontation leaked through the glass walls. Just 40 minutes of conversation that left Brad looking simultaneously shaken and strangely unburdened, as though something heavy had been both revealed and removed. When they emerged, Alex addressed the remaining staff who had gathered in an uncertain cluster near the front desk. Tomorrow begins differently. Not just new management, but a new philosophy, he explained, eyes connecting with each person individually. His hand rested on a stack of documents Maya had brought, comprehensive training materials on inclusive workspace management, mental health sensitivity, and recognizing unconscious bias in professional settings. Innovation Hub will become what its name always promised, a true nexus for diverse thinkers changing the world. The Respect Innovation Fund launches next week, providing resources specifically for LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs and those developing solutions for mental health challenges in underserved communities. Each location will feature dedicated crisis support specialists and monthly community feedback sessions where members shape our policies directly. The most surprising announcement came last, causing murmurs to ripple through the assembled staff. Brad has agreed to join our advisory board on workplace culture transformation, offering perspective on how traditional management must evolve to remain relevant in spaces designed for innovation. Brad stood awkwardly at the edge of the group, humility replacing arrogance in his posture, eyes downcast but occasionally lifting with something that resembled awakening. By evening, the incident had reached millions across multiple platforms. Tech publications scrambled to cover the story as the hashtag trended nationwide, spawning discussions about leadership, accountability, and creating truly inclusive innovation spaces. What could have become another viral moment of public shaming had instead transformed into a masterclass on transformative leadership. Requests for interviews flooded in from major networks and publications. But Alex declined them all, focusing instead on rebuilding the space from its foundation rather than capitalizing on a moment that wasn't about him. The true revolution wasn't in the public response, but in the quiet changes that followed in the days after the incident. New art featuring diverse creators appeared on previously bare walls. The coffee bar expanded to include a mental health resource corner staffed by trained volunteers. Community organizations received invitations to host events in the space at no cost. Alex demonstrated through action rather than words that accountability doesn't require destruction. Sometimes the most powerful response to harm isn't punishment, but transformation. The wounded places within us can become the spaces from which we offer the world what we once desperately needed ourselves, converting personal pain into public purpose. 1 month later, Innovation Hub pulsed with renewed energy that visitors could feel the moment they crossed the threshold. Natural light streamed through windows, once covered by heavy drapes, illuminating spaces where creativity now flowed without constraint. Conversation hummed between workstations, strategically arranged to encourage collaboration rather than isolation, creating an ecosystem where ideas could pollinate across disciplines. The transformation wasn't just aesthetic, it resonated in the atmosphere itself, in the way members greeted each other, in the absence of the hierarchical tension that had previously defined the space. The newly established Dignity Day drew entrepreneurs, investors, and community members in unexpected numbers, filling the renovated hub beyond capacity expectations. The event focused on startups addressing mental health challenges and social inequities, with particular emphasis on ventures led by founders from marginalized communities. Interactive installations demonstrated innovations in crisis intervention technology, while breakout sessions addressed the intersection of mental well-being and professional development. At the center of the main display stood a simple digital art piece that shifted throughout the day, a hand extended in both protection and welcome, with the words "Dignity is a right" illuminated beneath it, occasionally transforming to showcase user testimonials from people whose lives had been changed by compassionate innovation. Alex moved through the crowd, not as an owner exercising authority, but as a facilitator creating connections, introducing founders to potential investors, listening more than speaking, his presence catalytic rather than commanding. The constellation tattoo on his wrist, stars representing his darkest moments, now connected into something beautiful, caught light as he gestured during conversations, a subtle reminder of transformation visible only to those paying close attention. Most surprising was Brad's presence, not skulking in corners, but actively engaged in the day's events. The former manager had undergone his own transformation, not through punishment that breeds resentment, but through education that fosters understanding. Now he led a workshop called Evolving Leadership, sharing his journey from rigid traditionalist to advocate for inclusive spaces with the humility of someone who recognizes the value of learning through failure. His testimony carried particular weight precisely because of his former resistance. Participants listened with special attention to the man who had once embodied the very obstacles they sought to overcome. True leadership isn't about maintaining power, Brad told his audience. voice humbled by experience, yet strengthened by purpose. It's about creating spaces where others can discover their own. I mistook control for success, only to learn that innovation flourishes precisely where control is relinquished in favor of trust. The live stream that had captured the slap had indeed become a case study, not of public humiliation that serves no constructive purpose, but of crisis transformation that builds rather than destroys. Business schools incorporated it into their ethics curriculum alongside diversity training programs. Workplace consultants referenced it as an example of restorative rather than punitive approaches to accountability. The moment could have ended careers and shuttered businesses. Instead, it launched a movement extending far beyond Seattle's tech community. As evening approached, casting long shadows across the polished concrete floors, Alex stood on the small stage that had been assembled near the windows, the Seattle skyline framing him through floor-to-ceiling glass. Rain tapped gentle applause against the panes, the same rain that had welcomed him that fateful day. Success isn't measured by what we accumulate, he addressed the gathered community, voice soft yet caring to every corner. But by the barriers we dismantle for others. Real strength isn't found in the ability to strike back when wounded, but in the courage to create positive change from painful experiences. The most innovative solutions often emerge from our deepest struggles, if we're brave enough to transform them into purpose. The hub had become more than a workspace where people rented desks and accessed Wi-Fi. It had transformed into a testament to the power of responding to hatred with clarity rather than matching its energy. Sometimes the most revolutionary act isn't fighting fire with fire, but transforming fire into light that illuminates new possibilities. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone's calm response to cruelty completely changed the situation? How might our communities transform if we approached conflict with purpose rather than reaction? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to Heart Stories for more narratives about quiet courage changing our world, one dignified moment at a time.